ready to get started. We got a 30-minute window here for this workshop, and I'd be happy to go ahead and get us kicked off tonight. And we're going to turn things over to Trevor here in just a minute. But the agenda item we have tonight for the workshop is talking about our tavern beer permits. I just want to give you a little background. We've had a couple of different applications come into us to amend the tavern permit. And so I just wanted to give a little background and let Trevor turn it over and talk to you about what the requests are. We didn't have tavern permits as of up to 2014. We typically had restaurant permits, so people would come in and get a permit to sell on site. You'd have, I think, 60% food sales, and then 40% beer sales could be taken with a restaurant permit. And then we had off-site permits. So basically, those two were the main. I'm good. In 2014, we had a request to come in with a tavern permit, which at that time did not have any kind of food minimums or anything like that involved. And then a few years later, in 2017, the businesses came back and wanted to add some square footage to the amount that you had to be a tavern. So that went to 3,500 square foot facility, maximum square footage for a tavern. And though the board at that time adopted where they had to at least sell food. There is no minimum on that, but they at least had to sell food. So those are the changes that we made to get to this point. And so I'm going to turn things over to Trevor and let him talk you through what the current requests are and some of the big picture items that the board needs to think about.
All right. Thanks, David, for walking us through that.
Trevor,
within this, these two applications, we actually have two concepts here. I'll go through them both, but just at a high level, we have one applicant who's requested to just increase the square footage of the tavern to 4,500 square feet.
Trevor, I hate to butt in, but somebody's got their phone unmuted.
Hey, Ron, you're signed in under two accounts. Is there a chance it's you?
Sounds like you.
I think it's you, Drew.
It's definitely you, Ron Pinchuk. You're reverberating.
Okay, I'm going to give it a second try here. So we have one applicant who's requested to amend the tavern permit to increase the square footage to 4,500 square feet. We have another applicant who's requested to increase that square footage to 6,500 square feet. And that second applicant, although it is a separate matter, it's related. They've also applied to amend the zoning ordinance to allow for microbrewing, small-scale beer manufacturing. Because that element, although it would go through planning commission, would implicate the potential for the beer board to create new permits for beer brewing and distributing. We thought it'd be good to bring you kind of both pieces at once, just to kind of get your thoughts before we go forward. So I'll address just kind of the elements that we're sort of proposing in terms of the tavern first. We would, of course, be requesting to add a fourth tavern permit, because this second applicant would be turning around and applying for a tavern permit. We would also be requesting to increase the square footage restriction on taverns to 6,500 square feet. And we would also be considering adding a minimum food sales percentage to the tavern permit. David, do you want to get feedback on that piece first, or do you want to go ahead and talk about the other half?
Trevor, I'll just go through everything and then let the board come back, and maybe we could go one at a time and let them express their questions, comments, concerns, things like that.
Okay, sounds good. So then on the kind of on the brewing side, we are considering creating a new use that would be added to the mixed-use town center district, which is the use of we were calling brew pub, and it would essentially be a tavern that would also manufacture up to 2,500 barrels per year for on-site sales and distribution. And that's the basis of it. There's more to it. There's some permitting and things like that, but that's the basic elements of those two frameworks. We as staff, I'm joined by Bart Hose and Mark Shipley. We did some field research on microbreweries and brew pubs in the greater Knoxville area. So we had kind of an idea of what the scale of manufacturing was. We did some comparisons in terms of square footage, and that's sort of what guided our recommendations on the pieces that these two applicants requested as concepts. So I would welcome any feedback you have, and be happy to answer any questions you might have about these two elements.
Any board members want to jump in first with questions or comments about the changes?
Alderman Meyer here. So, go ahead, Drew.
No, go ahead, Scott. You're fine.
I was just curious if anyone has any history on the intent of the current 3,500 square feet limit. Was there any reason why that square footage was picked?
Alderman, originally, I believe the ordinance was 3,000 square feet. And we did that because we didn't want to have too large of a, when you first start a new ordinance, you're not sure exactly what you're going to get. And we hadn't allowed taverns or bars before. And so we were just being very conservative in the square footage. So I think we allowed up to 3,000 square feet, thinking that would be 2 bays of a typical retail type of establishment that you'd take up. From then, the former Casual Pint, which is now Admiral's Pub, wanted to increase their square footage about 500 square feet. And so we amended it at that time to allow that to happen back in 2017. So that's where the current number comes from.
Okay.
This is Alderman Pinchuk. I'm going to add something there. The reason the Casual Pint wanted the extra 500 square feet was they were adding a prep area for food. And I've got a question. If the Admiral Pub wants to expand another 1,000 feet, are they going to be introducing any new food items to their menu, or is it just space for people to sit at?
I think we've got the owner on the call here. Would you answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for looking into this. I appreciate it. When I took on the current lease for the pub, when I took over Casual Pint, there's a small space which is the next door over to the left when you're looking at the property. It's 1,000 square foot space that has never been developed in the shopping center. And I asked the landlord if he would basically put that into my lease, hoping that sometime in the future that I would be able to expand a little bit, knowing that the current, what the current rules were, that I was going to have to get in front of you guys to do just what we're doing. With this pandemic, to be totally honest with you, right now 50% of consumers still don't want to go out and go to restaurants. Who knows? It could be another 12 months before people feel comfortable being shoulder to shoulder in a bar type environment. So the reality is, I'm looking for some elbow room. I mean, I'm not even looking to expand 1,000 square feet worth of seating. I mean, I might put another 12 seats in 1,000 square feet. I'm looking to take my current seating, which right now I'm at about 60% capacity, and spread it out. So when we do have music, when we do have busier nights, people feel like they don't have to be on top of each other and they can spread out. And in that case, I'm doing the same revenue that I would do on a busy night 3 months ago with an additional 1,000 square feet. So to answer your question, I'm not looking to do more food. But right now I'm running about 20% food. And I've just added a liquor license as of 2 months ago. Just got opened on Monday full time. So to see what that impact is yet, we don't really know, but it will help. And I think it will also drive some more food sales, getting some new customers in there as well. Hopefully that answers your question.
This is Alderman Pinchuk again. I missed that percentage. Did you say food is 20%?
Currently, I'm selling about 20%.
Now, when the casual plant expanded, the space next to them was a wedge-shaped, pie-shaped, and they took the front end of that for prep area. Is that the same side you're talking about?
That was set up as a very hodgepodge sort of kitchen. They were doing about 6 or 7% food. I've moved some equipment around and made it much more efficient, and also added quite a few more nice food items without having a hood, all within code. So we were able to raise that to about 20%.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, Drew, you got something, or you go ahead?
I mean, I'll run down through the items A through F, what comments I have. Size of the tavern, I'm not as concerned about the tavern. I think over the last 5 years or so, we've seen that specialty beer market take over larger spaces. And so I'm not that concerned about the expanded size. Food sales, I do like having the food sales. How much, what percentage, on my paper, I wrote down 20 to 30%, but I could be swayed there because I'm not a business owner selling food in that atmosphere. So I don't know what reality really should look like, but I do like the food sales being a percentage requirement. What scale of beer manufacturing am I comfortable with? Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I would need to be educated by someone on that. What I really don't like the idea of is thinking of 18-wheelers turning in that busy intersection, which to me is already going to be tough for parking, and how you crank out how many 100 barrels a year. I don't know. Somebody'd have to explain how we could do that and not completely stop traffic or jam up a parking lot every time an 18-wheeler came in there. So I do have some concern about logistics and how that would work. As far as off-premise consumption goes, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that space. I talked to some buddies who regularly use the growlers and such, and they say it's a pretty normal part. So as long as we, educate the businesses properly on that, and we make sure that that's not out of control, that seems reasonable. As far as location of taverns go, I don't know if that's something we set on top of what we currently have, because with Admiral's Corner there, and then I believe the bike shop on the other side that's very close to the school currently selling alcohol. I mean, we already have them right by the school, so I don't know what how we would talk about those not being there. So those are just some topical conversations for each of those items from my perspective.
Vice Mayor.
Okay. I don't have a problem with looking at the size, expanding the size of the tavern. I really would like to have a conversation with the Planning Commission. Usually we have a much broader conversation with a lot of people that most of them on that were there when we first considered the tavern ordinance. So I'm uneasy about making any decision tonight without input from our Planning Commission. We need to understand that what we're making is that we're amending an ordinance, and we shouldn't be amending it based on a temporary issue. Of course, I don't know how long COVID will be, but it is in the grand scheme of things, it's a temporary issue compared to how this ordinance will stand. So we should be looking at it from, is this a good thing for taverns to be this square footage? What are the issues we might run into? Because eventually the 6-foot distancing between tables will go away, hopefully sooner than later, because I know our other restaurants are suffering as well as the Admiral Pub is. But we should be looking at this in the long run. What does this mean? Does it have implications? I was the one that kind of pushed for the food sales to be included in the tavern because we all acknowledged that in Farragut, people need food when they're drinking. They don't want to go to just a bar that doesn't offer good food to have while you're enjoying your beer. A percentage requirement, I'm not sure anymore if I really need that. Initially, I advocated for that, but I'm not sure that I necessarily need that, as long as their food isn't just pretzels and peanuts on the bar. I am in support of a microbrewing, craft brewing of beer that is giving the heart of the city of Knoxville a more of a place to be. It's part of the culture there, and certainly it's part of our culture in general. I think you need to be careful, Drew, when you're looking at a specific location. When we develop an ordinance, it's not for a specific business. It's going to apply everywhere. So we need to make sure that we're looking at that from a broad point of view. Growlers are already allowed at liquor stores. I've gotten growlers before at our local liquor stores. I've gotten growlers down, I can't remember the beer, the specialty beer, Bearden in Bearden, but I've gotten growlers before, so that's already exists, and I have no problem with us considering that for off-premise beer distribution. Again, if you're going to be in microbrewing, that's part of the whole what you're trying to do. Location of taverns, I'm really hesitant to get into that. Obviously, that bike shop sells beers, and that's a good part of their business. That provides a community feel for them. The people that bicycle, I guess, apparently like a good beer after they've gone biking, and that's a good thing for that business there. So, and it's the free market. As long as they're being responsible, carding people and making sure that there's no underage drinking, I have a hard time putting a restriction on that. So my only concern is that I would like for this to have been at least discussed with the Planning Commission. I just think that we need that input from the planning point of view so that we're assured that we've thought of all of the downsides to this. So those were my 4 cents.
Okay. Well, I'll start off with echoing the Planning Commission should have a input on this. I don't think we're ready to really consider this as far as first reading tonight. A few things, but as far as the size of the tavern, I think if we increase this, we also need to tie the amount of food percentage to it, and I would suggest this the 30-70 model, like what I think Knox County has. I think that's a fair number. I know that some are probably higher than that, depending on the quality of the food and really the clientele. As far as one of the things that I noticed on one of the applications was that they were asking for us to open it up to as many taverns. And I don't agree with that. We think we need to have an unlimited number of taverns. Naturally, the Admiral's Corner will be applying for a tavern permit. I think the food needs to be tied to that permit, and I also think that each tavern should have a kitchen, if they, instead of just a microwave, and that includes the. I know they're going to have food trucks as their kitchen, but they should also have a kitchen, because it may be the times where they may not have a food truck. As far as microbrewing, I don't think we're really even touched on that yet. I think we need to probably focus on the portion worked out on the square footage and the food percentage, and then let's get the planning commission involved on the microbrewing side of it. I don't think that Admiral's Corner will necessarily need that to be in place before they can open their doors. They will need the square footage, of course, but and as far as the amount of beer, the distribution, off premise, well, of course, like Vice Mayor says, that growlers and crowlers are both going on pretty much everywhere now. I don't think, again, like what Vice Mayor said, that we can actually try to do much more than what we've done already as far as location. But again, I don't think we're really ready to vote on this first reading tonight. I think we need more discussion on this, and I would like to have a representative from the corner. I'm appreciative of Andrew for his. So I'm glad that he was able to tell us what his plan was, and I think that's a good plan for him.
Mayor Williams, you do have a representative from Admiral's Corner here. Mr. Cortez is attending the meeting, so if you have questions for him directly, you certainly could ask him. So.
Okay, I didn't see.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, you are. Okay, great. I think on your request you had there that you didn't have anything on there about a separate kitchen as opposed to the food trucks. Is something that's in your plans? You've got quite a bit of square footage there.
Yeah, we'll have a back of the storage area with a separate. We're talking sandwich station / folks, and so we're refrigeration and cooler space. The goal with that is not to to take over what the food trucks are doing, is actually to kind of complement what they're doing. We want to put, we want to be able to put, cheese trays, meat trays, Spanish tapas type stuff, flatbreads, salads, things like that you can cook without having to need for a top or a hood and so forth.
Okay, that answers that then. That was the main question for you is what your other plans were in case you don't know if those food trucks fall out of favor. Then what's the plan then?
We're fortunate enough that, and obviously with the location that we're and roads with those guys. Good thing about it is you can schedule them well in advance. I mean, like for tomorrow, I wouldn't be able to get some of the some decent food trucks. I'm scheduling for October right now, which is kind of the good news in that sense. Since we have certain things at play that if somebody for some reason can't show up, I've got 3 bays, and so I'll have at least 1, maybe 2 food trucks at all times. At the same with what we with kitchen serves flatbreads and cheese trays and meat trays and cater to that crowd as well. There is some optionality to do more beyond that. That's not our new thoughts.
Okay, that's great. Does anybody else have any questions for him?
This is Alderman Pinchuk. I do have a question for Andrew. Is he still on?
I am.
Andrew,
Yes, sir.
question. The mayor was saying something about 30% food. You're up to 20% without a grease trap and without adding additional equipment to your kitchen. Can you reach 30%, do you think?
I think it'd be very difficult. You know, we have a kitchen that was set up same as P's and Q's. You know, it's a hoodless kitchen. So I do have a grease trap, but the equipment that I'm using is all electric, hoodless. So, you know, without about probably a $60,000 to $80,000 investment, and that would have to go through zoning or you know, through the permitting process to put a hood system in the back kitchen. I think it'd be difficult. You know, I do know that we are doing a top-notch pizza, and we are doing top-notch wings, and we've got pretzel bites where we make our own cheese, beer cheese, and the product that we are putting out is pretty incredible from a pub standpoint. But can we hit 30%? I couldn't tell you that, and I'd hate to. You know, I'd hate to find out a year from now I'm at 20% and then you guys are shutting me out. I mean, I don't know what that. I can only tell you what my data is now, and you know, 30 years in the business. You know, you base your next year's budget on historical. So and what you think you can do and what you hope you can do. But 30% would be a reach. In with what I have set up, 30% would be a reach.
25%?
Absolutely possible.
Can I have a few points. I've talked to Candace Candace Viox, who owns Water into Wine. When we were considering this last time, I was the one pushing for a food percentage, and she was about 20%. So I think I was kind of hinting at around 10% or 15%, something that would make it so that we weren't just serving pretzels and peanuts and calling it a day. I think we're venturing into tough territory if we insist on a 30% food sales for a tavern. That's an awfully steep climb for them. We certainly want our tavern, we want our businesses to be successful, all of our businesses, and we want them there for a long time. These small businesses create community, and taverns are a little different than restaurants. I think 30% is very steep. I think we have to keep focused on the important thing is that they're serving food that is not just nibbling stuff, so that people aren't drinking and then getting completely drunk because they don't have enough food in their bellies. So that was the point of having at least a minimum 10-15%, because it encourages you to actually invest in that, but it doesn't make it impossible for them to do business. And I would love for us to keep it at a reasonable amount so that our business owners have an opportunity to thrive. Mr. Cortez, I'm happy. I don't think I recognized that in the original plans that you guys are planning on a back kitchen. That is very helpful. Understanding how the microbrew, possibly brew pub works. We've got a lot of things we're considering right now, which is why I want the Planning Commission involved with the brewing part of it, because I know you usually have a tasting room. Sometimes people will stop, and a taste is a little different than just kind of hanging out and drinking beer. But then I have to balance that with, well, that's what happens at the bicycle shop, and Kroger has a bar in there. And now food is available, but how many people go shop for some cookies to eat while they're drinking at the bar at Kroger? I have to consider the existing. I have to consider the existing businesses and be fair with what you guys are trying to achieve, and what already exists in our town, whether we intended to create it or not, it's there. I just want us to make sure that we're building an ordinance that sets our businesses up for success. We learned from Casual Pint that people in Farragut need food. They didn't have a kitchen when they first opened. It was just beer. And they had to start inviting food trucks in, and they wanted us to expand our food truck ability. And we couldn't figure out how to make that work. That didn't hurt our other restaurants. So they eventually put in the kitchen. So we know in Farragut, food needs to go with our taverns. That's where that comes from. That's just a learning lesson on our part. We don't want you guys to fail. We have to recognize that Farragut's not going to be quite the same as City of Knoxville. So I am very open to the brew. I like beer. I would love to have a hometown beer that is brewed in Farragut. That would be a source of pride for all of us, I think. It's just that the devil's in the details. So we need to make sure that we're doing this right, because it's not just about your business. It's about creating an ordinance that works for any business that wants to come in and do that. So same with you, Mr. Fox. I understand that your need right now to open up because you need that extra space because of the directive about 6-foot distancing. You need to make sure that in doing so, we're not opening up a can of worms that we hadn't envisioned. Of course, we can all sit there and rethink everything, but I wanted to make sure that we're being purposeful when we go through this. I would like for us to do this quickly. I think a workshop with the Planning Commission may be enough. I understand time is of the essence, particularly with you, Mr. Fox, but we need to make sure that we're doing this for the right reasons. And I guess that's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you. My initial thought percentage was based on square footage. If you're going to have 4,500 square foot, it could be one percentage. 6,500 square foot, it could be another percentage of food. You know, anytime you look at the volume that you would do, it's going to have to be really based on square footage. So I think when we go to the Planning Commission and at the workshop, I think we need to look at it from a square footage versus percentage of food. I think that would be it. Okay, folks, we're going to have to conclude this and move on to our board meeting. If everybody is ready. They are. So the time is approximately 7:04 p.m. The June 11th, 2020 Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting will now come to order. Tonight, we're again operating under Governor Lee's Executive Order 16/34. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Executive Order 16 concerning electronic meetings has been extended by Executive Order 34 until 11:59 p.m. Central Daylight Time on June the 30th, 2020, which at that time it will expire. In accordance with the Executive Order, live access to the virtual meeting is made available through Charter Channel 193 or TDS Channel 3. During this period of time, all citizens agenda, form comments, and questions, along with the name and address, should be emailed to comments@townoffarragut.org. Should have been at 12 p.m. that day to be included in the record of the meeting. All board mayor and meetings will be public notice per Tennessee state law. They will also be recorded and can be reviewed later on the Town of Farragut YouTube channel. Pursuant to the governor's executive order, all votes taken tonight will be by roll call vote. And at this point, I'll ask the town recorder to take an attendance roll call for a quorum.
Have Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett here.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer here.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk present.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin present.
Mayor Williams.
Okay, do we have a press and shopper representative tonight?
Yes, sir. I think we have Margie Hagan and Michelle Hollenhead. I think I saw them on there.
Okay, any other?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Okay, next we'll approval of the agenda. And I think we probably, if we're going to have a workshop with the Planning Commission, then we will need to have a motion to amend the agenda.
Move to amend the agenda with the removal of item 6B2.
That. I'll ask the town recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Williams, yes. Okay. Now I guess we can go for the rest of the agenda for a motion to approve that.
Move to approve.
I'll second it. And I'll ask for a roll call vote on that, please.
Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes, let the record show that June 11, 2020 has been approved with the amendment. Okay, approval of the minutes. I'll ask for a motion to approve the May 28th, 2020 minutes as presented.
Move to
Alderman
approve.
Pinchot, move to approve.
Alderman Pavlin, second.
Okay, now ask for a call vote, please.
Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that the May 28th, 2020 minutes have been approved, and the vote will be by a unanimous vote and will be recorded as official minutes of that meeting. Okay, next, the mayor's report. And I want to start out by thanking all of our Farragut business owners that back to life. And I also want to thank our residents for their shop Farragut attitude. It's what a tight-knit community we have and here in Farragut. And again, I urge everyone to stay with the physical distancing and face masks when shopping in our businesses. Okay. Important information from our Parks and Recreation programs. Now yield the floor to Sue Stuhl, our Parks and Recreation Director, for her report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to go over a few things. We do have a new cleaning protocol at the community center. We've bought a Clorox 360. We're lucky to have it. They're hard to get right now. And this machine will actually use electrostatic charge to help spray a solution, a disinfectant, on everything: chairs, tables, desks, computers, equipment in the gym, everything very quickly, very lightly, and it clings to all 360 is what that means, clings to all the surfaces. So it's a great way for us to be able to clean between classes or between events or rentals in the gym. Where we have also ordered a fogger equipment that should be here soon to help supplement that in the smaller rooms. So right now the community center is open. We are having open gym for basketball and pickleball by reservation. So you can come in and rent half of the gym for your family or your group, your associated group. You can have it for an hour. You bring your own equipment. You have a lot of fun, and then you go on out the door. So we've had quite a few basketball groups. Thanks to Alderman Pinchot, we've had a paddle or a pickleball rental now, and I think we have another one going on tonight. We also have some classes that are starting up in the next couple of weeks of basket weaving, lunch and learns, Medicare seminars. And in July, we expect that to be expanded some. Some of our classes we're moving out of the park such as free yoga classes. So we're trying to be creative and use the space as we can. There are also rentals available. They do have to fall under the guidelines that we are currently under, but we have had some rentals of late, so that is available. We also have some events coming up. Our first event out of this COVID-19 situation is our grab and go for our volunteer banquet. That's by reservation. That's on June 26th. On July 4th, we are going to have the Festive Farragut at Home that I talked about last meeting. Right now on the books, we plan on having the lawn chair series, the first one of the season, on July 6th or 18th. That will be dependent on what happens with the next phase for Knox County. So we'll see what those rules allow us to do. On July 25th, we are going to have the fishing rodeo. It's by reservation and it is filling up. So if you are wanting to bring your kids to fish on that morning, they need to go ahead and sign up for one of the 2 shifts. And then we are also on July 16th going to have I believe it's the 16th, the premiere of The Birth of the Town, which is our documentary that we paid to have done about the founding of the town. It will be a very limited premiere due to space considerations and will basically include the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, the past Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and the people that were involved in the film. We'll schedule some public screenings at a later date when we can get a few more people into the Assembly Hall. Any questions?
Sue, when did you say that would be?
That is on Wednesday, July 15th at 6 p.m. Those invitations will be going out in about a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sue. Look, we're now starting to turn the corner and getting ready for full speed ahead. I'll now yield the floor to the Vice Mayor Paulin for her report.
Okay, I have 2 things. I'm not sure if everyone's aware. We are graduating our class of 2020 for Farragut High School this Friday, next Friday, not this Friday, next Friday at 7 p.m. It's a ticket-only event, so I'm just thrilled that we're actually being able to be in person with our graduates as they graduate. But one final thing, I'll try not to get emotional. The United States has been shaken up by the horrific death of George Floyd. I think it leaves a lot of us wondering what can we do? What can we do? I know that a lot of people have, in their frustration, have gone out to demonstrate. But once those demonstrations are over, it's about being productive with our time. I believe personally, education is the great equalizer, and I have volunteered my time in the past to an incredible program called Leaders for Readers. It was run through the Great Schools Partnership, which has now evolved to the Knox Education Foundation. Leaders for Readers is run through the community schools in Knox County. If someone wants to find a way to contribute, this Leaders for Readers program, it doesn't take a lot of time. It's an opportunity to sit with a first grader, a second grader, or a third grader and help them with their reading skills. You go in once a week, you read with them for 5 to 10 minutes. And it's a great way to help a child who needs some extra reading time. And these children they're delightful, and they enjoy having that special time with someone who comes in and spends time with them and helps them, and you get to know these beautiful children. So if you are looking for something to do, that is an opportunity. I would go to the Knox Education Foundation. It's still up on the Great Schools Partnership website, but I'm sure that website will probably go away as the Knox Education Foundation has just been founded. So I encourage anyone who's looking for something to do. That is a very worthy program. And that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor Pavlin. Any other alderman have anything to report? If not, we'll move on to our business items. Start off with approval of bids for contract 2021-01, annual on-call road maintenance.
These next 4 agenda items all go hand in hand. There are annual maintenance contracts that we do for various items. Obviously, the first one, as you mentioned, is for road maintenance. We solicited bids on June 2nd, and we received 1 bid from Pavement Restorations Incorporated, PRI. They gave us unit prices for all the various things they would need to do in fixing our roads or patching our roads, really, when they're out there. And they've been very responsive. We worked well with them in the past. So staff would recommend approval of contract 2021-01 to Pavement Restorations, Inc.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that the bid for the contract 2021-01 has been approved. Okay. Next will be approval bids for contract 2021-02, annual on-call pavement marking.
Well, whenever we go and restripe and do our roads, we have to have pavement markings. So we did bids for this as well on June 2nd, and we received 2 bids from Highway Markings and Volunteer Highways, or excuse me, Highway Markings and Volunteer Highway. And this year we're awarding the bid to contract 2021-02 to Highway Markings Incorporated.
Okay.
Pavlin, move to approve.
Alderman Pinchuk, second.
Okay, and roll call vote, please. Well, discussion. Then we will need a roll call vote then.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Let the record show that the bid for contract 2021-02 has been approved. Next will be approval bids for contract 2021-03, annual on-call guardrail maintenance.
Yes, Mayor, we received 2 bids for guardrail maintenance this year on our June 2nd bid offerings, one from Highway Markings and one from Roadway Solutions. Roadway Solutions was the low bid. We've used them in the past and they've been good to work with. So we recommend approval of contract 2021-03 to Roadway Solutions.
Alderman Pinchuk, move for approval.
Alderman
Pavlin, second.
Okay. If we have any discussion, please start off with that. And we'll ask for a roll call vote again.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Williams, yes. Record show that bid for contract 2021-03 has been approved. Approval of bid, contract 2021-04, annual on-call signal maintenance.
Traffic signals, handling all of our traffic signals throughout town. Our low bid this year was from Progression Electric. We worked with Progression in the past, and they've been good to work with. So we would recommend awarding contract 2021-04 to Progression Electric.
Alderman Pinchuk moves for approval.
Alderman Pavlin, second.
Okay. Any question for reply? Okay. If no, we have a motion with a second. I'll ask town recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show the bid for contract 2021-04 has been approved as stated. Ordinance. Tonight we have one ordinance to tonight for public hearing on the second reading, and we'll just have one for first reading as well. We'll start off with public hearing on second reading. Ordinance 20-07 is an ordinance to establish the fiscal year 2021 budget for the general fund, State Street Aid Fund, Capital Investment Fund, ADA Fund, Equipment Fund, Tourism Fund, Insurance Fund budgets of the town of Farragut, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020, and ending June 30th, 2021.
Mayor, thank you. Again, this is second reading, and so we did not have many changes from first reading of the budget document to second reading. And so I'm really just going to cover what those main changes are from first reading to second reading. The first one is our revenues that we originally projected were around 10.7 million coming into next fiscal year have been, right at 10.7 million, have been budgeted down based on state sales tax. We have now known that state sales tax has been decreasing. They have a lower estimate on our per population basis that they give us. And so that is going to be going down from around $90 per capita this year to $84 next year. So with that adjustment and what we will get just in state sales tax, if you add up the beer tax and the petroleum tax and gross receipts tax, it's a total of around $98 per person. That comes out to $1.898 million, which is a decrease of $193,482. That's the only change to revenues on the general fund side of things, but we also have, there's also a slight change to intergovernmental. It's up around $26. Again, very minor change there, decreasing in the intergovernmental based on gas tax. Again, that's the gas tax monies that we receive. If you go to State Street Aid Fund, that is the other end of the state shared revenue that we get. Again, that has been decreased from $38 per capita to $33 per capita. Because of that, that has also decreased our total revenues from around $850,000 projected to $745,800 projected for next year in the State Street Aid Fund, which is where we repave all of our roads here in the town. And those are the main changes. You also have a copy in your packet of our organizational chart and all the ordinances that are included as well, all the funds that are included. So if you have any questions at all, I'll be happy to try to answer those at this time.
Okay, that's our changes. I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Alderman Pinchot, move to approve.
Alderman Burnett, second.
Okay, and we will start off with any discussion from Alderman Burnett.
No discussion here, Mayor. I'll pass.
Okay, Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, pass.
Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, pass.
Vice Mayor Copeland.
Well, you know, I'm not going to shut up. Sorry, guys. I'm going to bring up the, I'm sorry. I've got 3 phones in here. I'm going to bring up the, let me get that. Sorry. Sorry. You can't have a meeting without a phone ringing. All right. Sorry. I would like for us to reconsider adding a line item to fund a economic development strategic plan. I understand that we wanted to talk about having a workshop, but I'm not quite sure why we need a workshop to discuss this. We're going to have to get a request for proposals together to put out to economic development specialists to feed back to us after we determine kind of the focus, and we need a committee for that. The $25,000 was, David Smoke had suggested that was generally what he thought was a good amount to fund an economic development strategic plan. We can't afford to put this off. We've got to get on top of this. With all of our businesses starting to suffer, we may see some empty buildings. We need an economic development strategic plan to support our current businesses. We need an economic development strategic plan that is focused on attracting new businesses. The number of 25,000 comes from David, who has had a lot of experience with planning. I think this is something we need to hit the ground running. We have all the parts in place, which is what I was waiting for. And I told you all this last year, that stick this in the back of your head. Once we were up with the MGO and our guys were able to do their stuff out in the field, and business owners were able to have their own account to look what was going on with a build out, so they could see where the permitting issues were. We are ready. I've spoken to Julie Blaylock and Terry Rutherford, who is the upcoming chairman for Farragut West Knox Chamber. They're on board. Steve Krompaski and Candace Viox for Farragut Business Alliance, they're on board. Of course, I know that Karen Tyndall would be happy to be part of a strategic plan, considering they're kind of doing a line into a different type of marketing, because we've kind of had to go within ourselves. So the time is now. We're ready. We've got all the parts in place. We need to get these before everyone starts kind of moving into their own directions. We really do need a cohesive way forward. We need someone from the outside to come in, look at what we're doing, figure out what needs to be refined, where do we need to, what do we need to add to the mix. It's time to do this, and I don't think we need to workshop it to understand that an economic development strategic plan needs to happen. So I hope that you'll agree with me.
Okay, Vice Mayor Powell, I don't think we need to do a workshop on whether we need it or not. We know we need it. I don't think that's the reasoning for a workshop. I do think we need to have a consensus that that's what we're going to do, and what our focus will be, and the people that would be involved in this committee, which I think you named off some pretty good ones there, Julie and Steve and Candace, people like Herc and Jim Nixon, and some of those people that are, really everyday players in the business market. I think that the 25,000 is probably, Karen Tyndall. There's people we can put in there that will all bring something to the table, and it'll be I think a committee that is quite a bit different than what we've had in the past, because I think with this type of committee, we can actually be able to get a few things done. That's my input.
Well, Mayor Williams, let me ask you, what does that mean? Does that mean that you're agreeable to inserting a line item for a strategic plan at this point?
Yes,
the way I see it is, okay. The way I see it is, we need an initial committee, a small, maybe David, I would like to be on that committee, and a few other people that deal in economic development, to put together a request for proposals that would go out, and then we would get proposals from economic development strategic people that do this, and then they would bring it back to us, and we would decide which one, as a board, we would decide which proposal works for us as a board. That's your workshop. And then we move from there, developing a committee, an economic development committee that I envision being ad hoc for now. And when we go through the plan, then we can kind of develop who do we want? A permanent economic development committee. We'll need something that a place where we can touch base. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. I appreciate the support. We do need to move forward. So thank you.
We disbanded the economic development. We said in the future that we all agreed that we need to have an ad hoc committee in the future on certain things. And I think at a certain time, and And at that time, we weren't there yet. And I think at this time we are there, and we need to move on. You're the one that's had all the economic development classes. So I do think you need to be involved with David and Trevor on this. So I'm glad you raised.
Hey, Louise, this is Alderman Burnett. I'm absolutely in favor of that committee. I'm good with earmarking the money for it, but I don't see how I would be in favor of spending that money anytime soon. And I guess my concern is no one knows what we're going to need. No one knows what the future business looks like, what big box stores are going to look like, what restaurants are going to do. Obviously, we heard earlier what one restaurant is needing, which is more space. But what happens in 6 months? What happens when we get a vaccine? Does everything come back down into normal business, or is normal business gone and the new business is going to be what's moving forward? So my only caution is we don't get someone to give us guidance for now when we don't know what the new normal is going to look like. So I love the committee. I love earmarking the money. I would be cautious to move too quickly and to bringing somebody in to give us a path forward when we know they've never lived through anything like this, just like we haven't.
This is Alderman Pinchuk. I've got a question. Can we somehow form a committee and then move forward on a budget amendment at that time? I just, as Alderman Burnett just said, there's so many variables, so many uncertainties over the next 3-6 months or so that I think we just need to take it a little slower. I'm in agreement that we need to do something. I'm not ready to spend the money right now until we know for sure what direction we want to go in. So maybe we form the committee and let them tell us when the time is right.
Okay, Alderman Meyer.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the only question I have is, and David, Al, or Allison, maybe you can answer this, but there's already $90,000 earmarked in the budget for economic development. Can you refresh my memory as to what that will be used for?
Good point.
Yes, sir. Just give me 1 second. I'll look that up for you.
70,000 of it is FBA.
Correct. The 70,000 is for the FBA. 18,000 is for the Farragut West Knox Chamber of Commerce. So really, you only have about $2,000 there. That's for some advertising, printing, things like that.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, everyone said what I believe. I think that we should, we definitely need to come up with a plan. I'm not super comfortable, all of us naming members of the ad hoc committee. I'd prefer to have an application process and solicit folks from the community who have ideas, as well as the folks that you mentioned. I'm still leaning towards what Alderman Pinchuk said. I'd rather just do a budget amendment after the fact, but I don't want to lose momentum on getting a plan. I think that we can get the plan by getting the committee going, and I'd like to see applications rather than us all just naming folks. And a little bit more of a vetting process. That's all. Thank you.
And can I'll address, Drew, I'll address your concerns. What I'm looking at for economic development, I own a gym. That's not changing. Working out isn't changing. The restaurants, Candace Viox is not thriving right now because of the distancing, but restaurants aren't changing. We may see some change with how services are delivered, and office businesses that end up accounting offices where people are working at home more often. But the retail business that we rely on, that's not going away. Will it evolve? Some of the retail, a lot of them are probably finding that they need to be on the web, on retail sales online more than just a brick and mortar. But we need the brick and mortars in Farragut. We're going to start to see some empty buildings because some businesses are not going to survive this. And we still have a reputation that we are a hard place to do business, and we have all of this support infrastructure in place, and we aren't getting the word out. How do we get that word out? What's the best way to get that word out? Are we going to do live? Are we just going to do some filming? How do we get that word out? That's part of what this strategic plan is about, getting solid ideas about how we are supporting our businesses and how we are attracting new businesses by showing them that we have the infrastructure in place to help them when they're doing their build out, when their thought first evolves. And we're not doing that right now. And we are flailing about. We have all of these great entities, and we don't have a refined way forward. And the longer we wait, the more desperate this situation will become. I don't think we have the ability, talking to my husband who's in business, we don't wait 6 months. These are things that are going to need to be there regardless of how business evolves. If we're going to continue to survive without a property tax, we need businesses that are selling things that we collect tax revenue from in our town. That's not changing. And we need to be able to attract them here instead of Hardin Valley, because Hardin Valley is a place we're competing, instead of Maryville, instead of Alcoa. And the longer we wait and try to see how things settle out, the more we're going to lose. So I really believe time is of the essence, not something we should wait around until this economy is going to do what it's going to do. We need to make sure that we're supporting and we're shining ourselves in a bright light. Hey, come to Farragut. We've got the assistance you need to thrive here.
And this is Alderman Meyer again, and I don't disagree with anything the Vice Mayor said. I think that we need to get a plan together. I don't think that putting a line item in for $25,000 is going to make us move faster or slower. I think we're all committed to getting a plan. I think we should move quickly to get the committee in place. And I have no problem doing any kind of amendment to a budget. I do have a problem with an arbitrary $25,000 because I don't know what that means. And maybe that's my ignorance, but I don't know what we would get for $25,000. I do know what we're getting for $90,000, as David Allison explained it, but I'm not comfortable with $25,000 because I don't know what it's going to bring us. So I'd rather just say we move forward as quickly as possible. I don't disagree with anything you said, Vice Mayor. You've been mentioning this for at least a year, and completely agree with you. I just don't know. I don't know if the intention is putting a budget item in here, if that's really going to make us move faster. And I'm just not comfortable putting that in right now. I'm totally comfortable with amending the budget as soon as I know what the dollars are going to bring us.
This is Alderman Pinchuk. I think if we could get the request out for applicants and try to do something within the next 30, 60 days as far as getting applicants, vetting them, and then having us vote on them. I think one of the keys is, do we want a small group or a larger group, 5 people or 9 people? Sometimes in a situation like this, a smaller group may be more effective. I don't know, but let's see how quickly we can move on getting the group together. And I think we can do it in the next 60 days.
Okay. Just for clarity, so you guys understand, I haven't spoken with David. You're going to need 2 committees. The first committee is a small committee of David and Trevor, and like I've offered, I'd like to be on it. I'd love one more additional person, but that is just for the request for proposals. Because we need to send out a request for proposals, which when we receive that, and we review them all, you pick one, then you open it, find how much it is, and that's when you set up your ad hoc committee for the strategic plan. So and that's a little bit further down the road. I'm just saying that for clarity. I appreciate what you're saying, Ron. I guess why I am asking that is because if we have a line item in there, then I know we're committed to doing this. So as long as I have you guys' commitment that we need to go forward with this, that's, I guess that's all I really do need is,
Vice Mayor, you have my ultimate commitment. As I've mentioned before, I am very committed to sports tourism. I think that should be part of our plan. I would like to be a part of this process any way I can. And you have it. I just can't commit to a dollar amount. I have no idea what it's for or what it's going to produce. And that's my ignorance. And I'll take the hit and say that's me not knowing what it might bring us. So,
okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I understand what you're saying, Alderman Meyer. Thank you.
Okay. I think at this point, we're all committed to this. I think David and Trevor and Louise and Karen Tyndall would make up the first small committee to go ahead and get something going. At that point, I don't think we need dollars as opposed to where they could come to us as a board, and then we could discuss the dollars. And as Scott said, we can do an amendment dollar-wise for whatever the puts together they feel it would be the best for us, and then we can move from there. I believe that would be our best way to go, and at this moment anyway. And I think we can do that quicker than 60 days. I think we could probably do that in probably 30 days.
David says, well, maybe not.
We need to, Mayor, I would say this. I'd just say we need to develop that RFP, and that's going to take a little bit of time to develop that RFP. And then we need some time to get it on the street and get responses back. So it may be a little longer than that, but certainly we can get a group together and start working on that right away.
Was the mayor talking about getting an RFP together in 30 days, or rather just getting the committee together?
No, I'm talking about getting it all together in order to put it on the street, and we can do that in 30 days.
Okay. I just, not to say the same thing I said, but I'm not in favor of pulling the trigger that fast. I know Vice Mayor Pavlin, you mentioned about the gyms and a lot of other places, but everywhere has changed. I mean, at least at the gym I go to now would have 15 or 20 people. Now we've got, 12-foot squares taped off that we have to register for class. Class is in 20 minutes early so we can clean. I mean, everything in our gym has changed. I think everything in restaurants has changed. Things are, a huge percentage of the business is used as takeout. There's some places that are saying we don't even need to open up our dining room anymore. Our business is now equaling what it was in store. And so I think my point is, I don't think anybody we pay any amount of money to, 20 grand, 80, 200 grand, has an idea of how this is going to play out and how businesses will be forever changed. I don't think it's doomsday, but I also think it's going to be changed. And whether, our pocket here in East Tennessee is less affected than others, but how these larger cities are affected will trickle down into our area. And so I would not be in favor of getting an RFP out and having someone come in the next 3 to 6 months when I don't think this will be played out in the next 3 to 6 months. So I may be on an island, but I think a lot is going to change, and I don't think anybody out there knows what that change is going to look like.
Burnett, I agree with you, and that we don't know, but until we go out and let our small group explore, I don't think we'll know what can even be brought to us. I think we need to let them do that, and then as Alderman Meyer said, whenever we have a little bit clear dollar amount and what we're going to be getting for our dollar, I think that's one of the things that he really was concerned about, and I'm concerned about it too, because we already spend a tremendous amount of money with the FBA and the Farragut West Knox Chamber for what they do. Don't get me wrong, I think both of them do a great job, and but I think what we're after is more focus. I mean, they've got a broad spectrum to hit. I think we need more of a focus group, and let's just give the challenge out there and see if they can bring that to us and in 30 days to talk about, and let's see what happens in 30 days. Maybe in 30 days we're ready to talk about it. Maybe not. We just have to see. I believe that would be the best to do for right now, and if not, then let's talk about it.
I don't have anything else.
Alderman Meyer?
Nothing further, thank you.
Alderman Pinchot?
Alderman Pinchot, I pass.
Okay, Alderman Burnett?
I'm good. I pass. Thanks.
Okay, motion and second. I'll ask the town recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Povlin.
Sorry. Alderman Povlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Okay. Records show that ordinance 20-07 has been approved on the second reading with a unanimous vote. Next, we'll move on to a public hearing on the first reading of the ordinance 20-06. It's an ordinance to amend Appendix A, zoning, and Chapter 2, definitions, art and studio, Chapter 3, specific district regulations, Section 17, office district, O-1, modify permitted uses. Matthew McClanahan, applicant.
Mayor, this agenda item was taken on from the Planning Commission. We've talked to the Planning Commission about this at a couple different meetings, workshopped, and then also voted on at the last meeting. This is office zoning district 01 is really a transition zone between commercial and residential. We had a specific area that the applicant was looking to add some different uses in for office. And once the Planning Commission reviewed those requests, they actually amended or want to recommend amending 01 district to allow for barbershop, beautician, hair salons in those districts, as well as art and fitness studios, but with the caveat that the building space or tenant space shall not exceed 1,500 square feet. So basically small, less intrusive type uses, things that are going to have low traffic counts, not high traffic counts throughout the day. So that way, if they do abut these residential areas, there's not going to be as much traffic and concern for, say, nighttime type activities, things like that. The other thing that we took out of the ordinance were mortuary establishments. Those were actually in the ordinance in office, and we've taken those out to just be included in commercial districts, but not in office districts anymore. So the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend ordinance 2020-06 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And so we also, staff recommends approval as well.
Alderman Povlin, going to move to approve.
Alderman Pinchot seconds.
Okay. Looks like we'll start with discussion. Alderman Burnett.
Maybe to Vice Mayor Povlin and you, Mayor, when we look at lower traffic count, zonings, when I think of gymnastics, martial arts, I get the smaller fitness studios. I think that would be understood as very different from a gym, but gymnastics, martial arts, I mean, you drive by those places and they just have bukus of people coming in and out on the hour, and they obviously go 5, 6, 7 o'clock because normally kids are in school till 4. So what's the thoughts there on, if this is supposed to be a lower traffic count area nestled in a residential area, how do those qualify as lower traffic count and not a lot of activity?
That's
I just say y'all because I know it came through y'all. That's the only reason I said y'all.
That's
Okay,
fine.
then we'll go to Vice Mayor Povlin to answer, and she will be next as well.
Okay. The reason we were concerned about that too, Alderman Burnett. That's why we restricted those to 1,500 gross square feet, because it would limit how many students you can have in that space. When I think about the martial arts studio that we have in town, they are much bigger spaces. They have a lot more students. They're 1,500 square feet would really limit what kind of martial arts. You certainly couldn't have one that offered it to, I think, to kids if it was going to be a larger one. I understand your point, and that's probably why we reduced it to that. Obviously, I don't think I understand how many students 1,500 square feet could handle, but it's 1,500 gross square feet. That's the entirety of it, right, David? That includes the bathrooms. It includes any office area you might have.
Yes, it is correct. It's 1,500 square feet. It includes the entire envelope that they are renting, their leased space. So it would be all that office space, restrooms, all included.
So you're restricting the area where you could practice whatever it is you're practicing is further restricted below that 1,500. So that's kind of why we put it at such a small amount.
You know how many 1,500 square feet section?
If you think about you're going to be required. Do we allow unisex bathrooms in a thing like that, or do they have to have 2 bathrooms, David? I can't remember what the zoning requires.
I'm not sure about the code requirements for that. It's probably based on size, but I know 1,500 square feet is a typical 1 bay of a retail establishment. That's usually what you're going to get out of. It could be, for instance, the business that's really close to us over here at the Starbucks Center has a nail salon and a neighborhood bar. The nail salon and the neighborhood bar are both probably going to be right around that 1,500 square foot mark.
So I guess the question is, how many of those would be available in this space?
Well, and remember that we're when we do an ordinance, it applies to everything across the community, not just this one location. But I don't know how many students you could conceivably fit in do martial arts in 1,000 square feet. You think about probably 5, maybe 300 or 400 would be taken up with bathroom and office space. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like.
I guess what I was trying to get at is, how big is the space that's being rezoned here? Could there be 4 1,500 square foot leased sections of the building, or is there only 3,000 left in that space?
Well, Alderman Burnett, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Fosland. Alderman Burnett, this would be for I don't want you to think about it in terms of a building. You need to think about it in terms of any office building that we have in Farragut. If they meet the requirements of the O1 district and have 1,500 square feet available, up to 1,500 square feet, they could then rent out to a couple of these uses that we would add to the list. They would not be able to rent out to mortuary services anymore in that list. So whether they have 1 bay or they have 5 bays, they couldn't combine bays to have that use, but they could have separate uses. You could have a barber shop next to a karate studio, for instance, as long as they're separate uses.
And separate entities.
Correct.
Just so you'll know, this would apply really to some of the newer buildings that I think the Myers Brothers has one that would be, and I think they got a dentist on one side and they've got another side open, and then they've also talked about 2 other buildings down in the Dixie Lee area. So I think you're going to see more of these small area office and that could be a variety of different things. It does give them a little bit more flexibility, which with the cost of rent per square foot, I think that's something that these building owners do need.
And we truly do not have much O1 zoning in town. There's about 3 or 4 spots in town that have the O1 zoning. So this would be a pretty nominal impact when it comes to land use throughout the town.
Okay. Alderman Meyer?
Alderman Meyer, pass.
Alderman Pinchot?
Alderman Pinchot, pass.
Alderman Burnett, do you have anything else concern?
Nope, I don't. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, sir. Vice Mayor Pavlin?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, well, in that case, we have a motion with a second. And ample discussion, so we will need a roll call, please.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that ordinance 20-06 has been approved on the first reading. The next public hearing and first reading has been put off, been postponed to later dates. So at this point, I will move on to Town Administrator's report.
Mayor, I have nothing to report tonight.
Okay, we have an attorney on the line.
He is not here tonight.
Okay, and he will not report. So at this point, to the governor's executive order, we ask that all citizen comments be emailed to comments@townoffarragut.org, which must, along with their name and address, be achieved or received by 12 p.m. the day of the meeting to be included in the record for that night's meeting. I'll ask the town recorder to please read in any comments that we have or questions from our citizens.
Yes, sir. Tonight we have two. The first one is from Tran 2. It says, as a resident impacted directly by the installation of the proposed 5G towers, I would like to ask that you reject any future proposed 5G towers until the citizens forum can be held, since it would not be fair to deny the citizens of Farragut the opportunity to voice our concerns over the deployment and implementation of the 5G towers in our residential neighborhoods. I was encouraged to hear that the Farragut created a resolution to put in front of Governor Lee, and hope that you will continue to fight for our town and many residents, families, and children that will be negatively impacted by the potential harmful radiation and decreased property value by having a tower in their front yard. This is even more concerning as we now have a new normal due to COVID-19 and find ourselves spending even more time working and staying in our homes. The next one is Christelle McGuire.
That was from who now?
That was from, the first one was from Tran 2.
Chris?
This one is Christelle McGuire. She's 436 Lost Tree Lane. And it's, I do not consent to the installation of 5G in my residential neighborhoods. There is no shot clock. Please deny any applications for the rollout of this technology until such time as biological study has been conducted by an objective entity providing it safe. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. The time is approximately 8 o'clock.
Can I say something really fast? I'm sorry that my phone rang in the middle. I'm sorry my phone rang in the middle of this meeting. I am tired of meetings on the web. I can't wait till we can sit around the table, even if we have to be socially distanced by 6 feet, because this is wearing me out. Just letting y'all know. And I appreciate your patience.
Okay. Well, it's still 8 o'clock, and without objection, the June 11th, 2020 Farragut Board and Mayor and Alderman meeting is now adjourned. That was a short one, Louise.
Even with all the talking I did. I'll see y'all. Have a good night.
Everybody.
Be safe.